You did it again, didn't you? You did it again. All right, hang on, hang on. Hang on. There you go. Hey, welcome back to Schmuckle Farm. I was just coming out here to fix a spot where a dead tree fell on the fence, and I heard my little silver goat over here hollering. I put, if you look at, let's see, where's she at? Right here. I had one of those on her horns and she managed to get it off. That stops them from sticking their head through the fence, because Petunia here will do it 3 or 4 times a day. That goat managed to break hers and get it off there. So I've got to go in there with more duct tape and another dowel. Do it again. You can use PVC on goats with a little bit heavier horns. But what I found is these with the really skinny, the young females with the really skinny tips on their horns, the PVC is too slick, it just slides right off. So the first thing they push against it, even if you duct tape it really well, it still comes off. Because they're very triangular shaped, whereas the boys are a lot thicker and have a lot more curve to them, so it's a lot harder for them to slide it off of there. So I originally came out here to get this little bit of a roll. I've got to go up behind the horse barn. A pine tree fell on it the other day when it was kind of stormy, and we've had a couple of 3 days of rain off and on. So I didn't try to fix it until we actually got a good day of sunshine. And it fell from the neighbor's property onto my property, cut the fence in two, and crushed about 5 or 6 feet of it. So I got the tree off of it, pulled the fence back up, and then patched in a goat panel temporarily until I had some good weather so I could go in there and fix it. And what I like to do when this happens is it's a lot easier to take a good piece of fence, cut the old piece out that's bad, and crimp in a new one. You can twist loops them if you want to. I found it's easier just to take a crimping tool and run down through there and crimp each one together. It takes a lot less time, and it's a lot easier on your hands than trying to twist those knots in the wire and then tighten it up. So I'm going to do that. Let me grab the little stretching bar that I use, and we'll head up there and get that fence fixed. All right, here's where the tree fell. Not much I could do about it. Like I said, it came from the neighbor's side, and this entire fence was folded up on the ground right here. Ripped it loose from this post. So I had this goat panel, 4x4 square, and I always keep a roll of the smaller electrical wire for electrical fence. And it's really easy just to tie in and make a temporary panel here. It'll keep everybody inside until I can come and cut this section out. I've got enough fence here probably to go from where that panel ends right there to maybe this post down here. I don't need that much. I'm probably going to cut it somewhere in here, straighten that back up, and then start tying it together. Not a very difficult proposition unless Selena tries to eat your tools. Leave my pliers alone. What I'm going to do is, since this fence runs to the outside, it was put in from the neighbor's side. At one time, one person owned all this. What I am going to do when I come back through here is I'm going to run this piece along the inside of this post, just because I need to staple it to the post, and I don't want to have to climb the fence to put staples in, simply to put it on that side of a post when I can stretch it just fine, tie it in right here, and it doesn't really matter. Since that piece is out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and crimp this one and get it standing up here. That way I can pull it back across. I can take this down and pull it back this way and have something up there in case the goats or the minis come over here and decide they want to leave. Got that piece all crimped in, ready to go. Now I've just got to come in right here. I'm going to cut it just short of the post and get some of this bent up wire out of it. I'll take this whole piece out. What I have down there will actually reach past this post if I wanted to, so I may end up having to trim a little bit off of that. Well, it reaches pretty good. I'm going to put the stretcher on it. Now when you're doing this, and obviously, you know, it's kind of conforming to where the old fence was bent, I'll have to step on it and straighten that out. But I like to stretch the top strand first, because the top and the bottom are your two heaviest strands. So I'll stretch those and crimp them while I'm holding them with the stretcher. And then the rest of it's a lot easier from there. It's just a matter of tying them all together at that point. I get this done. I heard the crows going crazy. I hope you can see them. They stay on these hawks. That's a red-tailed hawk, big red-tailed hawk. And the crows just mob them, which is good because they keep them run off, and I'm getting ready to let the guineas out. They're old enough now to go out and start walking around. And that hawk would be a top-tier predator for them, but the crows keep them kind of busy. Sorry if the wind noise is bad. One of the things I really like about using these type of stretchers, I have a chain stretcher as well, is you can hook this to a post. You can also hook it to a chain. You can hook it to the back end of this golf cart. Whatever you need to do. The post is in my way, but because I have this, it's very easy to just hook it to the post, go back, stretch it, and I can crimp the rest of these. And then I'm going to go back into the middle where it's already pretty tight. But over here, what I'll do is I'll start taking up slack in this wire. And you simply do that, take a pair of channel locks and bend the wire, and you can take some slack up out of it. But it's already tight enough I'm not worried about anything going through it. And it'll stand up there pretty good. I've got to put the barbed wire back on top. I don't really like barbed wire, but it's up there. And when the vines get on top of it, the horses don't mess with it anyway. But not a big fan of barbed wire, period. But it's kind of slack, and I can tie it back together rather than going and getting some of my wire, the smooth wire, and running a whole new run here. Eventually this will come down. I'll put smooth wire up. But for the meantime, I'm just going to tie this back together. That's what I was talking about, to take some of the slack out of it. Most wire, you can see, it'll have little curves in it. And that's for, as you tighten it, those will come out. Tighter they get, the tighter the fence gets, the less you can see them. But you can just go back through on an old fence and just take a pair of channel locks and give it a little bit of a twist, and that tightens that wire up. And you go all the way down the fence doing it. And you essentially can tighten an old fence back up fairly quickly without using a fence stretcher or anything like that, because you're taking a small amount of length out by doing that is a lot faster just with a pair of pliers than just to take the wire loose, set up the stretcher, re-stretch the whole thing. It's a lot simpler just to do what I just did. All right, time to put this barbed wire back together. Not that I really want to. Nice thing about the tree falling on it is it snatched all the slack out of it down the line, because when you drive the staples in, you leave a little bit of room in there for the wire to move. So it tightened the whole thing up, so I've got plenty of extra. So I'm just going to put the same fence stretcher either side of it. On this, I'm just going to twist it back together. Takes just a minute, but you got to wear gloves. This stuff will stick you. Not a big fan, but it's up all along this back fence. Most of it has vines on it. Not a big deal. I'll need to get the tractor and get the 2 pieces of pine tree that are down, drop them in the burn pit. The fence, that's done, that's out of the way. I do need to, since I have a little bit of time, the ground's still pretty wet from all the rain, I'm going to grab the spreader and go ahead and spread the winter grass in this paddock down here. If I let it dry another day or two, there won't be any reason to do it. I need the ground to be kind of wet, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that rather than going to get in the tractor and going up there and getting the logs, because it gets dark a lot earlier and I have a limited amount of time to get stuff done. So I've got at least one project, which these repair projects jump in front of everything else, but that's one thing I can mark off the list, which is really, really long. In smaller areas, instead of using a spreader, I'm just going to take a bucket and broadcast it. We got so much wind, it's really easy, just throw big handfuls of it up and just let it blow. I'm just overseeding. There is some winter grass seed in here already, but it's fairly simple. I'll just walk a couple of tracks, broadcast out. I'm not going to worry about the ditch area too much, but all the high spots, I want to see how much I can get on them. Just going to do 1 bag for this area. Like I said, I do have some winter grass already in here, and it should take me just a few minutes to get all this out. What you doing, Christy? You come to help? They are absolutely convinced that I'm throwing food on the ground, but they can't figure out where it's at, which probably has a lot to do with the fact the seed's so small they can't find it. But they're going to follow me around in circles till I'm done anyway. What's up, ladies? See somebody sitting in there on the nesting box because I'm missing one. I have a little buck that's coming through here in the middle of the night. I've seen him out here. He decided that he wanted to tear up my orange tree, so I had to put a tomato cage around it. And he better stop doing that. One of the next projects is I want to fence on make a wooden fence like you have up here coming down the driveway. Come off this corner and go up and make that a small paddock for horses. I'm not going to put goats in it. Just be able to take a couple of horses up here and let them have a different view for the day. But I do have to replace one post in the fence down here that's bad. And then of course I am going to, that whole side, I'm going to bring the fence around and tie it in over by the red barn, tie it into the pasture fence. That way I can turn that into a goat enclosure, give them several acres of, you know, goat habitat, really. Because I mean, they eat in the pasture, but they'd much rather eat bushes, leaves, stuff like that. And that's really more what this is laid out for. So I think I'm going to call it here, because I've got maybe an hour left before I need to put the horses up, and I got a few other things to do inside. So I'm going to wrap it up here. A couple projects done. If you're asking or wondering why I don't have a spreader, I do have smaller spreaders like we used to use when we planted food plots. I don't have a big one for the tractor because I'm not tilling anything up and spreading massive amounts of seed out. I mean, at most, I just threw out a 50-pound bag. I've got 4 more of those to go out. And by the time I drive to town, buy a spreader, I honestly could take that same 5-gallon bucket right there and walk the pastures and put out the seed where I need it. Because some areas are pretty heavy with winter grass right now, and they just don't need a lot of extra seed. But there's some areas where it's mostly summer grasses that I want to seed those kind of heavy. And it's easier just to go along and do it in spots as I need it. That way I'm maximizing my use of the seed, and I'm saving the time. Like I said, it'll take me 2 hours to go to town, buy a spreader, come back, and it took me all of about 30 minutes to walk that one paddock and hit every spot that I wanted to put seed in. So whatever you think is going to work for you. I would like to need a big spreader. I would like to have more pasture where I needed to use a big spreader on the tractor, but I just don't. Right now I can do everything by hand. Whenever I did this area, I put in some Pensacola Bahia up in some areas up there, and I did it all with the food plot spreader. Worked just fine. Took the manure spreader, went back over it with a bunch of the compost, and all that grass is coming up. So just an easier way to do it. Doesn't cost any money if you use a 5-gallon bucket. So until next time, thanks for watching.